Hey, it's ODB, our lifestyle podcast, also known as OLP. This is issue 79, July 98, Mini Truckin Magazine. A lot to talk about with this one, including we had Rob Rodell on in the past. If you have not listened to that episode, I highly suggest that you do go back and check it out. Rob was a very detailed guest in terms of just remembering a lot of different things. This was his Isuzu Amigo. He talked in links about it, just different stages, going to different shows and whatnot, and talks about, when it was shot and just a lot of cool stuff. A couple things. So this is, again, issue 79, so it's July 98. The truck was shot at Reso from 97 into 98. So give or take around January 4th, January 5th of 1998 at that Reso. If I remember correctly, that's when he said this was shot. So a couple of things to think about. One, Courtney shoots this amazing cover. I've always loved the rolling shot. I thought it just looked fantastic. Overall, they give a nod to Florida at the top. Of course, you got the white Mini Truckin logo. Today's compact truck publication, you can see there. NC, this is their third negative camber cover. We had Gendros and then the yellow Mazda, or the two before it. This is the first Billet Specialty cover, our first cover truck with Billet Specialties, those famed wheels. Still mega popular today. Great wheel company, I think, overall. This was Courtney's 12th credited cover. Shartsis has this issue and one issue left as the editor, and then Courtney will take the reins, technically, rest in peace, Courtney Halowell, at issue 81. And again, this is issue 79. So let's jump in. Enough with the ODB facts here. We've got the stereo amp ad on the left. For features, you got project updates all the way down to copper top. Some good tech, events, of course, and you can see on the cover there Rob Rodell's slammed, whammed, and jammed Isuzu Amigo, and you see there where I believe this was the first issue where they say today's compact truck publication, and Mini Truckin Mag, Courtney Hot Bike Halowell. If I remember correctly, Hot Bike was where Courtney was also shooting for, or maybe he was about to come over from. I know he shot for different publications. It is worth noting, though, Courtney's going to become the editor, again, like I said, at issue 81. It is something to keep in mind because she really didn't stay the editor for long, because if you think about this being July 98, what happens the next summer in 99, we'll talk about down the road. Some of you guys obviously know, but, Courtney he was really good about shooting for different publications, I think, overall, keeping, whether he's a freelancer or on staff, keeping that income coming. Here you can see editor, and the team there overall. And you see Clint Walker's name as well. Some of the guys we've been talking about a little bit, Mike Slade, Wes Allison. And keep me honest there, Courtney's name is not there. So again, it kind of shows how he was able to freelance and kind of do what was good for him. This is help or hindrance. So the Mike Shartsis column, if you will. Really appreciate everyone that continues to come back here and rock with us and leave comments and just even watch these videos all the way through. It really helps us. So here is Oregon Super Show. We've given some big shout outs to all the kinfolk up there. I want to give a huge shout out to Jeff, Geoff, Jeff at Mini Garage. I know he's kind of had to slow down a little bit on his content for YouTube, but I'll be sharing more information soon. If you need Mazda parts, I think even some Datsuns and some other stuff, he's got an eBay store. And I think shipping is included in the price. So it's all kind of one price, one bundle. If you guys need parts, I'd ask that you hit up Jeff. They'll take care of you guys. If you have them on Facebook, you can look up Jeff Mini Garage And I'm looking at these Mazdas, of course, you can kind of tell there. Something a little bit different there. It looks like the bed, kind of a tilt bed, but the way they pulled the wheel off. Nice little setup there with the crowd control, with the little fencing. A lot of awesome trucks over the years from this area, and you can see they went hard in the paint with their setups, and really dig this setup too. Tweed, real nice bed treatment. You don't see as much as that now. It seemed like, you know, over the years, a lot of guys have like super clean beds now. So here, you got a rendering. I always like to look at the renderings and see if I can make out. I don't know if that was Fast Eddie, but maybe not. I always like to look and see who the renderings were. But this was project updates here. And Shartsis, right? You can see relaxed on the license plate. I always did enjoy these. Here was Paul Morton's project updates. So Paul, we've had on the podcast. We talked a little bit about that truck. He, you know, worked for a couple of different publications, including, you know, the stereo stuff in this era. That was a cool episode too. You know, he's into a lot of the same stuff we all are, bikes and whatnot. Gendro, the Chop Shop. I remember when this truck first came out. We got video of it that we posted. I think when it debuted, possibly. But it was pretty cool to see a brand new truck laid out like that. And it's good that all this stuff is documented here in Mini Truckin Magazine. If you haven't, search your favorite podcast app. Just search OLP and make sure you turn on or follow or subscribe. It's free. Okay, so I always forget this truck was featured in this issue. I don't know why. My issue of this was... I misplaced it years ago. I think I left it at a buddy's house. And a guy named John that owned LoMigo at the time sent me this issue, so I appreciate him doing that. But I always tend to forget this issue. I haven't been through it a lot in the last 20 years. This truck, I always thought was also featured in Sport Truck. I can't remember. There were a couple of trucks that kind of blend together when I think of this one. But one of the cool things about it is the topper, how it kind of hinges up. Or just, I don't want to say ratchets up, but it moves up on some sort of strut or something. But pretty cool stuff. Really radical in terms of the paint. It's too bad that we were not all color yet. But you can see there kind of that front three-quarter shot with the pretty cool theme with the stereo stuff in the back too. The front tilt hood with the graphics all smooth underneath. I mean, a lot of mods. I often try to reinforce to myself that, you know, just because a truck maybe isn't body dropped or from the late 90s and, you know, wasn't like this, wasn't like that, doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. I mean, some of these trucks could easily contend and or beat other higher end trucks that maybe are lower. Higher end is in, you know, maybe body dropped and a few other mods. But I mean, look at the interior. Nissan 240 SX Dash. Mitsubishi bucket seats. I mean, a lot of work in this thing. And again, I was a big reader of Sport Truck as well. So some of these features kind of go back and forth in my head. But I want to say it was featured in Sport Truck. Maybe it was just in some show coverage. But if I come across the issues, I know I can look back and I can kind of tie those together. I used to request these different manufacturer guides, catalogs. And this one, again, I got to thank Tim Davis from RA for hooking me up. He had a couple, I think 2 he had, and he hooked me up. I believe it was the 97, 98. Pretty cool stuff there. It might have been 98, 99, but I used to request a lot of those, and I got to a certain point where I had to, you know, get rid of some stuff. And of course, that was, I ended up getting rid of some of my old catalogs, thinking, why would I ever want these? And now I wish I had them. Fast bags, I think, is a good old school term, kind of throwback term. This is WCC, West Coast Customs. And if you remember in this era, you started to have that fastback term. So people, the guys started out with 1/4-inch line. Many of us did. And you got to the point where, you know, some of us had tanks. I think my tank came from Walmart. It was a red tank and steel. And, you know, you get to this era of guys going, well, you know, I kind of want to, you know, be a little bit faster with my setup. And you start tying in the electric valves, extra tank, bigger compressors. You can see like kind of what the compressors were in that era. I'm very thankful to Viair because, I mean, they've been around so long, and those new ones, not only are they quieter, but they are a lot quicker than the old days. It's pretty crazy how technology has changed. Here's Planet Audio. Remember when that was a big thing? In the middle there. Okay, so this is July 98. This would have been Slamfest 97. Rest in peace, Rob Septor. I did that video recently. Some of you guys saw on YouTube. It was a short one, but I kind of make them for social media, and then I also want to post them, you know, to be able to, you know, have them, if you will, or have access to them on YouTube. But there's Rob's truck. It looked the same the next year. It was on the cover May 99, and then May 2000. It was featured May 99. It was on the cover May 2000. Matt Torgerson rebuilt it for Rob, and it's still out there. Some of you will know this truck. It's the reason for downtime. And rest in peace, Bruce Rivera. And we saw this hat, right? I think in the one ad, the audio ad. This would have been my second year going. Jason Dandler, there's his Isuzu. For those that don't know, he won Best of Show at Slamboree this year with a car, but that was his old Isuzu. He later had a Tacoma. Here's Reds, and then some of you guys will remember this thing. Super clean. Blazer on gold wires. Sometimes I gotta think back as I'm looking through this. It's kind of bringing back memories for myself. Like I said, I typically don't flip through these issues. If I do, I just look at a few pages. I kind of go at it just going, boom, let me jump into it. There was about us and see. Some of you guys can rattle off the Ranger stuff. Some of these just blend together in my head. I remember those wheels. I want to say Lethal Injection, but I don't think so. And there's just, I mean, so many iconic ones there. And then check this out. Perfect. Love it. This was a famous rodeo. I think that was around a while. There was one guy, I don't know if it was this one, that had talked to Matt Torgerson back in the day about, I think, bodying one on 20s when they, you know, when 20s were still considered to be huge. We were always we tried to always be in the know as far as what was going down, as far as intel on trucks and stuff. So, you know, word would spread back then different than it does today. Now it's social media, but, you know, we were always, I don't want to say gossiping, but we were always kind of like, what's going on? Who's building what? Oh, this guy's trying to do 20s. You know, that was an era of the kind of the barbershop talk. So probably on the East Coast, maybe, or at least in Florida, maybe one of the first bodied. Don't quote me on that. I mean, I'd say first, I don't know, handful, but pretty cool to see that. And it's a Mazda. You guys know I love Mazdas. So here is pretty cool. They use the West Coast Customs. I think we saw that before for the cutout. I've read something recently. I've always wanted to find out. I've always been curious. You know, I didn't know if Shartsis and those guys would even remember. What was the circulation of mini trucking in the heyday, like 95, 96, 97, 98, like maybe in those years? And I read something, and it's not confirmed, but it said the intel that they had was like it was around 50 to 55,000, you know, at the peak. And I thought that was pretty crazy. Not saying that there were 55,000 mini truckers, but people that would buy this magazine and appreciated it and said, hey, man, this is cool stuff. And boom, I mean, here we go. You know, even if you weren't a mini trucker, I mean, look at this layout. I talked about it a little bit with Rob, but a couple things I really like about it is, you know, the kind of the contrast there with the asphalt. And I love that it's the rear 3/4 shot for the main photo. Texas style. the top, of course, being off. I had an LoMigo, got from my buddy John, and that was my daily driver for a while. But you kind of see that rear 3/4 shot. Maybe you weren't expecting that in the feature itself. And then, of course, the stereo and the tweed and some of the sculpturing and the batteries and stuff all just really flowed with this in terms of the feature. Whoever did the layout, I thought was pretty cool, again, with that rear 3/4 shot. And then you've got the 4 smaller, I guess, insert shots is maybe what they're referred to as. But I thought to myself, with this one being the staples, I mean, how many of these ended up, you know, let's say, you know, 40, 50,000 of these magazines were out there. You know, how many of these ended up being ripped out and hung on the wall? I don't recall taking mine out because I just didn't do that. But I'll tell you, I looked at this issue a lot back in those days. The other cool thing was you see the NC logo there, kind of a little bit different there, like on a piece of acrylic almost, looks like, sticker. It used to blow my mind too, because, you know, at this time, you know, I wasn't fully engulfed in the mods and all that stuff in terms of, you know, knowing the right guys. And, you know, I looked at this and I'm like, you know, Trendsetter was mentioned, rest in peace to Sean Mahaney. And you think about, you know, they were talking about swapping front ends, you know, to an S10 setup. And I was like, damn, that's a lot of work. And it was cool all these years later, and still is to me, to be able to go back and talk to some of these guys about these builds, like Rob Rodell, you know, remember so much, and, you know, keeping some of the legacies of these guys alive. So shout out to NC, getting jiggy with it, Texas style. That kind of tied into the Will Smith song, which I think that album went diamond. One of those late 90s, this would have been late 90s, I think, whatever album that was. I can't believe Will Smith's got a diamond. He's got 1 or 2 diamond albums. Crazy. So, yeah, there you go. I mean, just a real cool shoot that Courtney did, rest in peace. I mean, look, even the door panels. You know, a lot of trucks in these days, and not all of them, but, you know, a lot of trucks had, you know, badass body mods, but the interior wasn't full-blown. Like this one, it wasn't like they skimped out, you know, like everything was done on it. So pretty awesome there. Shout out to NC. Shout out to Rob Rodell. And again, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I never listened to Rob Rodell. If you Google Rob Rodell, OLP, or Our Lifestyle Podcast, you should be able to find it. I started kind of naming them as we moved further into the podcast. I named them like the name of the person versus like a theme to try to make it a little bit easier. An example of that is when we had K-Daddy on. I recently reran his audio and I couldn't even find it because I named it something that tied into the truck. And I was like, man, did we even have him on? I'm like, I know we did. And, but anyways, here is Sick Toy. And real cool. Those wheels were super popular. Nice clean Mini. So yeah, I try to name them after the person now, so you know it'll make it easier in the future, whether you're looking for it or I'm looking for it. Shout out to RA. Super clean. There's the CD changer, which was big. You know, some people probably think back, why did you have a CD changer? Well, if you were driving a long distance and you put one CD, you know, that was before MP3, so it's not like you had a burnt CD with 100 songs. You had, 12 to 20 songs, you know, depending on with interludes and stuff like that. So it would be kind of cool to do that, and, you know, some of those CD changers would do shuffle. Here's Import Showoff. Here's Shockwave. This is pretty cool. We didn't see as many. I just want to look at this really quick here. Show you guys these. One mini truck there. Couple, actually, that other one, badass one. But we didn't see as many space cabs. I know some people love them, some people hate them. I like them. They're a little bit different. That window, I think, drives some people with OCD a little crazy because they're like, why isn't it level? But you check it out. You know, you had your extra space in these extended cabs, space cabs, cab pluses, super cabs, whatever you want to call them. Each of the OEMs ended up. I think when I went through the last issue with the Ford and it said like Super Cab, I was like, oh yeah, is that what they call them? Besides Cab Plus and Space Cab, I kind of call them all extended cabs, I think. Riding around. So like I said, I appreciate you guys rocking with us here. I really do. Much appreciated. That looks like in Tampa, possibly. Sometimes it's easy to tell, sometimes it's not. Just getting a phone call a second ago on my phone. I'm getting new tires on my full size, so they're probably calling to say, yo, come get your stuff and give us the loot. The West Coast Customs ad. Here was Stinger Electronics. This is Ideal Concepts presents Ideal Wish. If you like what we're doing, leave a comment. Share this with other people if you've got homies that would appreciate it. I know some people have hit me up saying, hey, do you know what issue? I do my best to try to help everyone with the amount of time I have, but if you do ever need me to try to tell you what issue a truck was featured in, you can look in the comments. I actually went back today. I spent like 20 minutes going back and putting in some old feature data in the some of the older flip-throughs. But I definitely need the make and model of the truck. Sometimes it was called whatever the feature was called, meaning the name of the truck was used as the feature. But if not, I definitely need the name, or excuse me, the make and model, the year as well. This person had an Isuzu, and it was called Blue Diamond. And when I searched my database, it didn't come up. But, you know, he said he thinks it was featured from such and such year to such and such year. So I said, hey, if you can give me the year of the truck, Isuzu Pup, I'll look up and try to see. As I went through with this project, I've gotten more detailed with it than when I started. So, you know, eventually I'll even have more slice and dicing to do as far as data. But for the most part, I can kind of figure it out pretty quickly. But this is July 98th. Again, NC, their third cover. Billet Specialty's first cover vehicle with those wheels. Courtney's 12th credited. Shartsis has one left after this before Courtney kind of comes in as the editor. And that's in, of course, issue 81. Appreciate all the support. Stay on the rise. We at you. LoMigo. Peace.